It's really good to see him there because he's like me. He takes care of his health as he takes care of his business and other businesses as well. He really does care. I got the honor to go last Friday and take a tour of the facility, and I have to say, wow, I'm really proud to have that here in Nashville, and I look forward to being a part of that to help him out and be a mentor to other businesses to grow. So I wrote something out here for me, so bear with me, it's a little tongue twister. Michael is the president and CEO of the Entrepreneur Center, a public-private partnership helping the creative classes turn ideas into real businesses. A serial entrepreneur, Michael focused most of his career in healthcare services space. In addition, he is a professor at Vanderbilt's own Graduate School of Management. He was the president of Paradigm Health, a disease management firm specializing in providing services for clinically complex medical cases. Prior to his position at Paradigm Health, he was the founder and president of Therathesis, a venue-based specialty healthcare for management, orthopedic rehabilitation and services. Prior to founding Therathesis, he was the vice president for management care of HCA Centennial Center here in Nashville. Michael has also received a PhD in healthcare administration from the Medical University of South Carolina in 2013. Michael looks at the Entrepreneur Center as an opportunity to revolutionize Nashville's entrepreneur ecosystem and create venture development on a large scale. Let's give a warm welcome to Michael Burcham, the CEO and president of the Entrepreneur Center.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Better. Such a pleasure to be with you. I think this is my third opportunity to be with your group. And I was reflecting on that and preparing for today's remarks because I remember the first opportunity, I think it was at the Holiday Inn perhaps, and we were talking about what we hoped to do for our city, and that was in 2010. Things happen because people believe in a dream and then they go execute and do. And I've had the privilege of not only helping dream something for Nashville, but doing it. And it's been a genuine pleasure this week just to reflect on the amazing men and women in this city who dared to dream with me and do something pretty amazing. So I'd like to give you about 10-15 minutes of that story, just a background of it all. And then I brought 3 of our current entrepreneurs at the center because it's so much better to hear live stories than hear me rag on and rom about other stuff. So, Dave, if you'll find your way down to this front table while I'm doing the intro piece, then we'll all be together down here. But I wanted to give you sort of our story. I moved to Nashville in 1982 from a little town in Mississippi called Booneville, named after Daniel Boone. It's just a little wide spot in the road with a Piggly Wiggly and not much else. But I came to Nashville because I had a dream I wanted to pursue. I just finished my undergraduate degree at the University of Mississippi. I wanted to work in healthcare, and at that time, the most interesting place in American healthcare was happening in Nashville. And I wanted to get here and be a part of that. And I'm one of thousands of people that are here today because that type of thing drew them here, whether it was healthcare or music or songwriting or publishing or banking or life insurance or many other kinds of industries here. But we all got here. I wasn't born here, but I fell in love with the city and decided it would be my permanent home. And I've thoroughly loved the last 30 years in this city. But in '92, 10 years after getting here, I decided I would start a business. And I will tell you, that year of trying to get that business off the ground was about the hardest year of my life. And it wasn't because I didn't have passion, and it wasn't because I didn't have a good idea. It was just really hard to find the kinds of resources one needs to get a business going. And it's a very lonely time in your life. If you've never started a business, you can't imagine how lonely that feels because you think, what have I done? You know, I've left a job and I've got a family to care for, and is this really going to work? And I have never forgotten how that feels, even though I've had 3 companies and each one got successively bigger than the previous. And by the second company, I really wasn't dependent on other people's capital any longer, but the loneliness never changed. I sold my last business at the end of 2007 in healthcare to a large corporation out of Boston called Inverness. And you know, it was a big decision for me because they offered me the opportunity to be over their global healthcare markets, which would have been spending most of my life on a plane across Europe, Asia, and the U.S. It was a great financial opportunity, but it wasn't here. And I had children in high school, and I made a conscious choice to forego that and stay here. And in exchange for that, I had to agree to a 3-year lockup in healthcare, which meant I couldn't physically work in my industry. If you've ever had that feeling, I thought at first, oh, this would be great. It's a nice vacation. But about 3 weeks into it, I was needing Valium or Prozac or something because I was going nuts. Because the idea of not working is not in my DNA. Because if you grow up in a very rural, relatively poor family, you know, you're driven by something that you can't quite explain, and it's not about money. It's about making sure you always have food and making sure you always have a shelter. And so that drive is always with you, no matter where you get in life. So I started looking around for something interesting to do. The Chamber was tinkering with this idea of how do we get entrepreneurs to Nashville, because we really wanted to do something about that here. And I raised my hand to be part of a study group because I knew how it felt to start a business. And I knew what was probably missing from our community and why people were going to Austin and why they were going to Boulder and Silicon Valley to start businesses, because those cities had organized in a way we had not. Didn't mean we didn't have a great city, just mean we hadn't really organized the resources. So we spent most of 2008 and 2009 meeting and meetups to really no capital on the table to do anything. But Ron, you were part of that at the Chamber at the time, and we had lots of discussions led by Mike Smerling and Bobby Frist and Janet Miller and Ralph and you and many people who weighed in on what they thought we needed, and we put together a really pretty report. Remember that? Really pretty report. But like most reports, they're pretty meaningless unless you go do something with them. And in late 2009, Todd Featherling and Janet decided that Janet Miller, I refer to her as Janet sometimes, it's kind of like Prince, you just know Janet if you're in this city, decided to do something about it. And they called me up and we started working on a concept of what a center could look like. And honestly, I just simply fell in love with it and decided that this would be a fun thing to do. And in late 2009, about 20 of us met at Sunset Grill. We asked folks to participate and help because we needed to raise some money. And about 15 people that night gave enough money that we raised $200,000. And we started a 501 for the idea of doing something special for Nashville. And out of that early seed, a lot of other people started weighing in, and we began work and opened a website saying, let's see how much traffic we get. And we were expecting 200 or 300 hits a month of people looking for help. The first month we had 2,000 hits. The second month we had 10,000 hits. And we're like, okay, this is crazy. Either a lot of people need some help or we're misrepresenting what we are or something. And the more we investigated, the more we found these are real people trying to get some help. Something pretty devastating happened to our city in May of 2010, which was the floods that happened downtown. And the water pretty much hit Fifth, if you were around then. We were looking for a way to launch this center. And out of that disaster came opportunity because there was a building at the corner of First and Broadway that the floods pretty well emptied out, because it's not a good corner to be on when it's flooding downtown. And we found a great opportunity for some low-cost rent to be there. And we thought, what a great place to start something that helps people build back their businesses than to go in the very heart of what destroyed them. So we started down there with very little capital, but real good intentions, and formed a board of directors and did something that hadn't been done here before, and that is create a way that new ideas could be screened and heard, people's thoughts could be listened to and get good feedback. And we went to all the business community, pretty much like you, and said, would you volunteer just a half a day a month for a minimum of 6 months to coach what you know and do well to someone who's trying to figure it out? And today we have 250 businessmen and women who volunteer to be mentors for us at the center. And it's probably the secret sauce of our center that most cities don't quite understand, because they provide an army of people to do things that I could never do by myself. I mean, Rhonda is one of our new mentors, and she's down there coaching startups in her area of expertise. Others of you are coaching in your area of expertise. And it's incredible for someone who's trying to start their first business to see someone from the business community saying, I'll give you a little bit of my time to help you with something I know how to do well so that you can have a business. In our first 3 years, we have screened over 2,000 startup ideas that have come here from 85 to 90 of Tennessee's counties and about 17 different states. We've launched 72 new companies in our city. 68 of those 72 made it. They have raised $22 million of capital so far. They employ almost 500 people, and they're contributing nearly $70 million to the local economy out of ideas that became real because someone would believe in them. And in the middle of all that, we knew we needed a permanent home. So I approached MDHA. Phil Ryan was there at the time. The Trolley Barns in 2010 was an abandoned property with fence around it, and nothing had been going on there for almost 20 years. We wanted to create a community where people who wanted to start a business could congregate and do cool things. But we knew we needed an anchor tenant to make that happen, and I wanted the center to be the anchor tenant. So I approached Clayton McWhirter and John Ingram and asked them to join me, and the three of us would commit that if we couldn't raise the money, we would fund it, and we would get a center open, and they agreed to help me do that. And we started to raise capital to renovate that very first barn, because if you had been by there, you would not want to be moving in the way it looked. But through a lot of partnerships, a lot of conversations, telling our story and people getting involved, we raised collectively culminating this past year, $5 million to renovate that building and created a design. And in exchange for raising the capital, MDHA has provided us the opportunity to be there for the next 50 years. And out of that commitment that we made, Burt Matthews and their organization was able to get funding to renovate the other 5 and lease them out. And today, the Trolley Barns are 100% occupied with new companies. Thank you. And just as all of South of Broad is being transformed, Rutledge Hill is undergoing an incredible transformation. There's been massive turnover of the property along Rutledge Hill, and in a year you won't recognize how many new businesses are about to be up on that bluff of the downtown district. But I want to tell you that it's more than the building. I know many of you were there with us this week or have been. By the time today ends, we'll have hosted 3,000 people through our building, including folks from the SBA in Washington, Scott Case, the head of Startup America, the entire innovation team from Dell's corporate office in Austin, and many, many other dignitaries who wanted to come see what Nashville is all about. But I would tell you there's a bigger story than just the building. The bigger story has to do with the fact that when we started this journey in 2007, Nashville didn't even make the top 50 list of a place to start a business. And in the past 7 months, we've been ranked either number 2 or 3 or 4 in America as a place to launch your new business. And in 2 publications, we've already been ranked the single best place to start a business, and we are just getting started. And my belief is, over the next 2 years, the work that the men and women who are helping us at the center and all the businesses who are partnering with us, you will see our city emerge as the single best place for entrepreneurial growth in America, and it will become a great catalyst of economic development for our city. And I have all of you and your colleagues all across the city to thank for it, because, yeah, I had a lot to do with the dream and the vision, but you can't execute something this big by yourself. And it's been a real pleasure and a journey to share it with so many men and women in this city. And the people that you help, the people that have the opportunity suddenly to be in control of their own destiny, to determine how they're going to follow their passion to create not only their own job, but jobs for other people, is probably one of the most gratifying things you can do. I told a group yesterday that it's the closest thing to the Creator I've ever felt, because you're taking literally nothing but someone's idea and turning it into something that not only creates something to sustain them, but gives other families income and jobs and their kids the opportunity to go to college and to school. And that's incredibly meaningful. And so the work we do, while it's certainly labor intensive and tough. I think it's making a difference, and I hope over the next 2 years you get to see a remarkable difference in this city by the types of companies that come through the center, while we help people who have their own American dream turn it into something real.
Gwen, I'm coming back to you so they can hear. Michael, I would like for you to comment on the flap recently over the word entrepreneur.
Oh my. I was hoping not to get that question. So, yes, our center as a nonprofit has been sued by a California company because we used the word entrepreneur in our name. There's very little I can say because we are hoping to settle that this week. It's challenging for me personally because it's what I am and who I am, and for someone to claim that I'm infringing on their right to run a magazine when I'm here in our community trying to do good for people who don't have another alternative feels insulting. That's really all I can say.
Michael, today is the longest day of daylight for the year. And what's transpired this week? What's going on?
Oh, here you, George.
I'll come back, David.
Hearing aids. Josh, get the hearing aid business. Michael, today is the longest day of the year, daylight-wise, and you have shined so much daylight in Nashville for so long. And the folks you have touched in positive fashion and the way you have brought the business community together is just unbelievable. This has got to be a dream come true for you, sprouting all these businesses and only having four tutored businesses fail out of 72 is just unbelievable. So I really don't have a question. This is just amazing. And I'm so thankful that you've been here 3 straight years, and we want you to come back next year.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that.
Okay, David.
This is an easy question. I won't ask you about litigation.
Thank you.
I won't make a speech like George.
Thank you.
Do you just serve Davidson County, or do you serve surrounding counties?
We actually formed partnerships with all the surrounding counties because I try to think like our community thinks, and there are many people who live in a surrounding county that work in Davidson, or that work in Davidson and live in a surrounding county, or vice versa. So we have been very intentional in trying to serve our MSA. But I will be honest with you, if I am to do my job well, and I view my job when I get up every morning is to see who wants to create something really special in the business community here, and here I tend to say collectively Nashville. Many of those people are people who don't live here today. And I will tell you about half of our guests come from way outside of that community, and they get here and they fall in love with the resources of Nashville, the people of Nashville, the food, the music, the culture, the fact that people are willing to help each other, that this is a friendly city, there's very low crime. And when they get here, they simply don't want to leave. Just as the same way when I arrived in '82, I thought, this is where I'm going to be home. And so we are intentional in how we serve whomever walks in the door. You know, I have for Metro and others, I track by zip code who shows up. But honestly, I really don't care. Because my view is if I can help you here in Nashville start a business, or even if you go back just beyond Nashville and start your business, and I've done my job well, you're going to tell 10 more people what happened to you in Nashville, and 10 more people will come. And my belief is when people show up here and have half a shot at doing something, more than half of them are going to fall in love with this city and permanently stay here. So we have welcomed folks from 17 states, from 6 countries, and I suspect that's going to continue to grow because we are now getting a national reputation as a place to come. Of our summer companies being launched, half of them are from outside of Tennessee. And my guess is most of them will stay here.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I do a lot of career counseling with a lot of people. Sometimes I send them in that direction because they are thinking about entrepreneurship. But my question is more one question I ask them, and I'm curious from you. I'll take either one. What is your personal mission or what is your personal vision? I don't care which one, but one or the other.
Well, you know, it's changed now that I'm 52. When I was 30, my mission was all about me. And at 50, it's all about what I'm going to do and what's left when I'm gone. And I know many of you have had that same transformation in your own life. So my personal mission today isn't to start another healthcare company, though I've had 3 and I could easily pull down the capital and do it again. My personal mission and my goal has simply become, I love helping people create their own dream and helping them build their dream, whatever that is in business. And so I get giddy when I get to the office in the morning because I have no idea who's going to walk through that door. And they all have a story. They're all human beings just like me and you. Some of them got a lot of baggage. Some have been beat up. Some of them have had all the optimism beat out of them through bad jobs or bad personal situations. But somewhere in there is something that's a spark that caused them to have the energy to show up. And so even if I think it's a bad idea, I try to be very respectful of the person and give them everything I can give them that day to not only restore hope in themselves and this country, but give them a shot at having something that's meaningful.
So in my neighborhood in East Nashville and in lots of other urban communities that are seeing a renaissance and renewal, I see tons of B2C bricks and mortar small businesses going up. How hard is it for those entrepreneurs to find investors who are willing to invest in those types of business to consumer, straight to the customer type operations?
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most difficult, it's probably an 8. B2C businesses are very challenging if it's simply an idea and you have no customers. Now, by the time you get customers, you may not need the capital, but then suddenly everybody will want to invest. If you're looking at the organized investment community, you have to say, well, what's been funded historically by our city? And it's pretty easy to see the short list of those. So I would say B2C is a very challenging category. In addition to business to consumer, I would tell you a lot of the social media and music things are tough to fund as well. They're probably a 9 instead of an 8. So it's not the toughest category, but it's certainly challenging. We have 3 programs that we have launched to help that. One was we have a group of seed funds at the center. It's not a lot of capital, but it's $25,000 to $50,000, and it's designed for that category of people who find it more difficult to get the capital they need. And while $50,000 won't get you everywhere you need to go, we believe it'll help you get to a proof of concept and do something. The second area we're working on is called crowdfunding. Crowdfunding allows family and friends and neighbors who you know to invest through a group model if they believe in you. Because if you have a good idea and you have integrity and a reputation because over the years you've done the right things and helped friends and neighbors, most of the time friends and neighbors want to help. And I found that particular model can be a very resourceful way to raise capital and allow your friends and family and neighbors to own a little piece collectively of your business and get the capital raised. So crowdfunding has become an important part of what we do, and over the coming months and year will be even more important. The third thing I am doing personally with our team is reaching out to investment communities far beyond Nashville. Because now with our economy structured around technologies that can be anywhere, there are investors in Texas, Chicago, West Coast, East Coast, even Europe, who happen to like some of the things that our local investors may not. I hosted a delegation from the United Arab Emirates this week. They would like to put a $2 to $5 million fund with me at the center, and they gave me a laundry list of things they want to invest in. And it has to do with basic infrastructure for their communities and country. And what they ask is the entrepreneur be willing to open a product there that serves their community. But it's basic personal safety, it's basic household goods, it's things that they need and that they want to serve in their community, but they're willing to fund the entrepreneur to do it here if they'll open an outpost and do it in their country. So I suspect as we continue to raise Nashville's prominence in this entrepreneurial community, we will be able to bring together a vast array of capital. Capital tends to follow success. So very honestly, our first 2 to 3 years, we had to stamp out companies that could be successful. Once we've done that, the capital will follow. This year, our first 3 companies we helped launch back in 2010 will likely have an exit, because they are all well over $5 million of revenue. They have wonderful EBITDA margins, and you say the buzzards are circling. Whether it's an investment bank, a private equity fund, a larger company, or another investor, all the folks who want to help them get bigger, faster, or acquire them are now in the air, hovering around Nashville, saying, "Do you want to sell to us?" And some will take money and grow, and some will sell. But regardless of what that entrepreneur chooses to do, it becomes a remarkable validation that this process works. And as that happens, I suspect more and more capital will arrive in our city looking for opportunity. Thank you all very much.